Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Faster Way podcast. I am so thrilled to be here today with Dr. Ruiz. Dr. Ruiz, thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Having a lot of fun here.
Yeah, now you are a naturopathic doctor, and I would love to hear a little bit more about when and why you entered into the wellness industry.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's one of those things that I always wanted to be a doctor ever since I can remember. I remember having the Fisher Price, plastic yellow stethoscope, set, you know, and I really didn't know what my path was going to be. I grew up pretty poor, didn't have a lot of money, and my parents, they love me and they support me in everything I do, but they didn't really quite understand that in order to be a doctor, you just really have to be a doctor since like high school. You have to like train and you apply. So, got scholarships and, went to college and needed to hold a job. That became really overwhelming. Ended up dropping out of school. And when I came back, I was thought, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. I was like, you know what? Let me go to the lion's den, to see if I have what it takes. So I started working in Orlando, Florida at Arnold Palmer Emergency Department for Children, which is a level one trauma center for kids. And anytime I would talk to someone that was a doctor, like, hey, what should I do? And they would be like, don't go into medicine. Just don't go into medicine. And I remember, around that time, I started listening to podcasts like this, and I was listening to Rob Wolf interview Chris Kresser. Okay. And Chris Kresser said, naturopath, you know, and I was like, what's that? Around that time, I had started, paleo lifestyle. I've been paleo since 2010. And I was like, oh my goodness, I went online and I was like, with this naturopaths, they can prescribe, they can diagnose, which is very important. They can write labs. It's not, a weekend seminar, it's upper level graduation. In the state of Arizona, I'm fully licensed to practice, but they can also talk about diet. They can also talk about exercise. They can also talk about lifestyle, which is so important. Lifestyle is the basis of everything. And what was happening in the emergency department is that you're just seeing people at their worst. You are just patching them up, sending them to ICU or sending them home, and you never really change anything. You're just prescribing something and stabilizing and next. And that kind of, is what's happening with our current system of medicine. So I like to say that naturopathy found me, not the other way around, because like I always wanted to be this type of doctor, and I finally found it whenever I found my path.
Oh, wow. I say the same thing about nutrition and fitness. I say the industry or that category found me versus the other way. I had
Right.
a very specific plan for my life. I was going down a particular career path that would help me earn a lot of money. And then, personal training came calling. I'm like, I can't earn money with that or put food on the table with that. And yet, wanted to really help people transform physically. So here we are. And it's interesting. So we are based in Tampa Bay, Florida. So I'm very familiar with the area that you were in when you were at the Children's Emergency Hospital. So thank you so much for sharing your background with us a little bit. Tell me about your upbringing. Was your family healthy? Where did you grow up?
Awesome question, because if you don't look at health through an evolutionary perspective, nothing makes sense. And one thing that I can tell you, I'm sure your listeners are familiar with Weston A. Price. I grew up in Mexico. I spent 14 years of my life in Mexico, in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, south of the border, Brownsville, Texas, that area. My oldest brother, who is 5 years older than me, has perfect teeth. Okay. I have a little bit of crooked teeth, and then as the children were being born, there's five of us. The fifth one just has all jacked up teeth. And it's insanity because My oldest brother, who's just 5 years older than me, grew up with a more traditionally Mexican diet than me. It's only 5 years. And in those 5 years, that's when modernization or, like fast food started exploding. And there is this little, quirk and immigrant families, it's called affluenza, where we look up to what other people are doing and we want to mimic it. And so we, as my parents started getting a little bit more money or more spending money, celebrations started. Oh, let's go to the United States and have a burger, fast food burger. And that turns into let's start cooking those burgers at the house, and that traditional diet starts to not go away but be less frequent. And I'm not even talking about changing like the type of fats that we were using for more hydrogenized oils, vegetable oils, maybe the cattle industry, where I bet I grew up eating nothing but grass-fed meat, and as I got older, this cattle industry started infiltrating everywhere, and so as it progressed, I think that our health, even though we were eating better, our health started deteriorating because we were going further and further away from our natural, ethnically appropriate diet, which is pretty fascinating.
That is. And you mentioned that you have been paleo for years. Can you define that for our listeners?
Oh, it's a great question, because a paleo diet, you've been around. You remember, going into forums and people being like, "Are tomatoes paleo? Are
Our
well,
white potato is paleo.
yeah,
Yeah.
pants are not paleo. Cars are not paleo." So the way that I define it is an unprocessed diet that is the most anti-inflammatory for you. So what is anti-inflammatory for me is going to be very different that from someone else. And then to add one more layer is that paleo is macronutrient agnostic, meaning that there is no like this many carbs makes you low carb and what's keto and what's paleo, and that is just nonsense that people are going to fight about, and basically there's never going to be a consensus because there is none. And the most important thing is to work with someone that understands your needs at that particular point.
Hmm.
For example, right now, leading into the most difficult time of the year, most difficult time of the year, I don't know if any of your people are interested in weight loss, but the holidays is where we gain the most weight. And then because you go to a party, you go to, oh, it's Christmas, oh, it's Thanksgiving, oh, it's and there's always an excuse. And let's put some numbers to it. Let's say that in that period of time from Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, we gain around 8 pounds. By January 2nd, when everyone and their mom is ready to lose that weight, we might be able to shave off 5. And that's how we end up with a net positive of 3. And year over year, we continue escalating. What's interesting is that in other cultures, like for example, during the high Jewish holidays, which is Passover, that's when that subset of people gain those 8 pounds and they never recover. So like right now, I am doing a paleo diet that is really biased towards low carbohydrate with a little bit of fasting. And then on November 23rd, which is Thanksgiving, I'm just going to say, oh, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to go into the holidays a little bit under where I want to be. I'm going to allow myself to enjoy life. And then January 2nd, I'll do another little sprint.
That's so interesting. Now, were you going to say that in other cultures, sometimes the holidays are when people fast? Is that what you were going to
Oh,
say?
no, 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 no. In other cultures, during the high holidays, that's when we gain weight.
Oh, yeah, of course, especially America. I mean, in,
Well,
America.
and you can take it, everywhere, like for example, during Ramadan when you're fasting, okay, when you're fasting and you are allowed to eat once the sun comes up, you will end up making up for all the calories that you missed and more.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens in every culture. Why? Because we are social animals, we're social beings, and we want to enjoy the holidays. Have you ever measured and weighed your turkey for Thanksgiving?
No, I don't weigh my
I
turkey.
have. I have, because when I say I'm gonna do something, I do it. So like I challenge myself all the time, and I was doing a pretty extreme, just calorie counting, macro workout and stuff like that, and I miscalculated completely, and I had to do it during Thanksgiving.
Funny.
And guess what I did? I pulled out my scale and I carved white turkey meat, which was the closest thing that I could find on my chronometer or whatever. I couldn't have mashed potatoes, because that was too many carbs and it'd take me out of my macros. So I did cauliflower mash, and I remember counting Brussels sprouts, and it was horrible.
Yes. Memories over macros is what we say at the Faster Way. Memories over
Yeah.
macros.
So I really discourage, people trying to do something like super, super extreme, peripheral to the holidays.
Mm,
But, when the holiday comes in and we are enjoying life or whatever, it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
hmm
It's
hmm
it's about just being present, enjoying them, not having, and maybe you love measuring macros and that's how you live. And I've met people like that, and do you, boo, like that's cool for you. I that's not how I work, and it's, to me, the most important thing that we can do is not be miserable.
Yeah. Well, the lifestyle has to be sustainable and enjoyable. And so that's such an
Enjoy.
important component of what we do at Faster Way. We say, listen, memories over macros, but yes, we are going to the week after Thanksgiving get back to fasting. We're going to get back to workouts, and we're going to continue to maintain our strength and our stamina as we go throughout the holidays. So I've read that you have extensive knowledge and experience working with people who have autoimmune disorders, and specifically Graves' disease and Hashimoto's. So I'd love to dive into that because we are receiving an increasing number of clients specifically with Hashimoto's. And it just seems like, wow, there's been a pretty big uptick in the number of people who are struggling with autoimmune disorders. So can you talk about that? Can you define Graves' disease and Hashimoto's for us? And then let's take a deep dive.
Okay, so the first thing, and I'm gonna let you guide me, because I can go into into so many streams of consciousness that all are applicable to everyone, but I just want to make sure that we do it at a pace where it's digestible. Okay, but the first thing I'm going to say is it is not your fault. We are so lucky. We are so lucky, Amanda, because one generation before us, okay, I'm 41, one generation before us was like this natural awakening, where people start like, oh my goodness, and we owe them. We stand on the shoulders of giants. The problem was that that previous generation, was the one that was like, I want to get off of all medications. Okay. And our generation, which is one generation removed, this next batch of health, people, we kind of don't care, and we have, and it's so interesting, if I have someone that their workouts are, 5 pound weights doing curls in front of a mirror with a leotard, they're going to be like, oh my God, I have Hashimoto's, and if I have someone that is squatting, with 45 plates, and she's going to come into the office and be like, okay, I have Hashimoto's, what do I do? And that is so refreshing, because in the case of Hashimoto's or autoimmune thyroid disease, it is not your fault. We live in a very dirty environment where our immune system is bored. Why? Because have you ever, or I'm going to recommend for anyone to read An Epidemic of Absence, which is a book that talks about how the people with the strongest immune systems were the ones that survived. Why? Because we didn't have antibiotics, we cut ourselves, an infection was life or death. So the people that had the most aggressive immune systems were the ones that survived. And unfortunately, that trait, or fortunately, that trait, translates to us. The survival of the fittest gene of, being aggressive with your immune system is still present. But what's not present is all the threats of microbes. We wash our hands. We have refrigerators. We cook, chicken to 165 degrees. So now our immune system doesn't need to attack these invaders. So it's bored and it starts attacking itself. And in the case of autoimmune thyroid disease, which Graves and Hashimoto's are basically one coin with two faces. So it's the same, physiological pathways where your body attacks your thyroid. It's just in one case, it opens up your thyroid and you just start releasing all the thyroid hormone in the thyroid. And in the other one, it destroys the thyroid tissue. So now you're not able to produce enough thyroid. So I'll let you guide me to where you want to go with this information from here on out.
We have so many clients coming into the faster way with suboptimal thyroid function. And it's interesting that you mentioned these two types of people, because we do have clients who come in and they say, oh, my doctor told me I have hypothyroidism. My doctor told me I have Hashimoto's. My doctor told me I have Graves' disease. And so I can't lose weight. So, anything I try isn't going to work. And they kind of come in with this victim mentality a little bit. And you mentioned this type of person. And then we have another crew that comes in and they say, okay, I've been told that I have a thyroid issue, but I'm going to try faster way. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to do, the workouts, and I'm going to tailor this a little bit here and there. And so you can guess which person typically has a better outcome with a healthy lifestyle. But talk with me a little bit about what someone who has Hashimoto's should be watching out for. Talk with me about the nutrition intake. Speak with me about what not to do when it comes to exercise. Just share a few tips with our listeners.
Very interesting, because I have autoimmune thyroid disease. I have Hashimoto's,
Wow.
and it usually stems from a traumatic event. The number one, indicator, it's not causality, but in observation, it is observed that after having your first kiddo, that's when the stress kind of overwhelms the system and the body just gives up and starts attacking itself. Okay. During 2020 peak pandemic, I was eating the best I've ever eaten, cooking everything at home, super clean, very dedicated. And I started gaining weight. And the worst thing that I've ever experienced is trying to lose weight, having the knowledge of what to do, doing it to the T, and not obtaining results, to the point that I started doing things that I didn't think were healthy. So like I started decreasing my calorie intake by a lot, 900 calories a day, which you can pack a lot of volume with 900 calories a day. So it sounds like very low calories, but you can be very full with 900 calories. I remember grabbing my backpack, putting weights on my backpack, and running around the parking lot in Phoenix, Arizona in August. And the scale kept going the wrong way. So then that's when I decided, okay, I need to go back to my doctor, because a doctor that treats himself has a fool for a patient. So you have to have someone. And of course, I'm very opinionated about this topic. So, it's putting together two people to create a plan is sometimes difficult. But my TSH had finally jumped. My family has a very long history of autoimmune thyroid disease. And I've been checking my numbers, forever, since like 2010. just trying to understand what's going on. And it was like a point 0.4, point 0.5 jump in my thyroid stimulating hormone. And that right there was enough. That
Mm.
was it, you know. And what I tell my patients is that there's two ways or two things that you have to put together in order to be healthy. Your physiology, and then you have to put your lifestyle. Sometimes when I have someone that comes to me, you know, like someone referred them because they, you know, I don't know why, they come to me and they're like, and I ask the question, do you follow any diets? And they're like, no. You know, what's a typical breakfast? Oh, you know, I go, you know, get, you know, some drive-through, you know, whatever, and then lunch is a salad, and then dinner is DoorDash. I stop them and I say, go read a book. Just go read a book, learn about, you know, how to eat like a human, and then come back to me. Because sometimes that lifestyle is so messed up that the physiology can't ingrain it. What I had discovered is that my lifestyle was spot on. I was sleeping more. I was eating better. I was, you know, it was perfect. My stress levels were really low in my head, but my physiology finally gave up, and those two things never meshed. But when both things mesh, so when I started thyroid replacement therapy, when those things mesh, then magic happens and everything went back to normal. I could predict how to gain weight or how to lose weight. You know, one really crazy thing that happened was that I was never a morning person. And after starting thyroid medication, like overnight, I became a morning person. Just my physiology changed completely once I was optimized.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I recently had my blood work read. I get blood work, you know, probably every 6 months and just got and my thyroid is perfect, but I'm not a morning person, so man, how do I how
So let's
do
define what let's define what perfect is,
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's a lot of misinformation about thyroid and thyroid prescriptions. So I've heard so many arguments about like people kind of like using a thermometer to measure their thyroid. That is, that has been disproven. I see people that ignore very important labs, like for example, ignoring the thyroid stimulating hormone
Mhm.
because it's a man-made lab. Oh, look at that. It's a man-made lab, but they're using other man-made labs to measure. So TSH is very important for the body. It is a hormone that has more influence than just creating more thyroid medication, more thyroid hormone from your thyroid. It actually goes into your bones and helps signal osteoclast not to break down your bones and prevent osteoporosis. So the truth or the pendulum has swung so far in both ways. One, but by people being misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed with thyroid disease. And then on the other hand, the pendulum swung the other way so hard that now everyone has thyroid disease. So I'm very happy when I see thyroid numbers and I'm like, huh, you don't have thyroid disease. Congratulations, because the meme or what happens is that if you go to a Lyme specialist, everyone has Lyme. If you go to a
Mm.
mold specialist, everyone has mold.
Yeah.
I specialize in natural endocrinology, and not everyone has thyroid disease. But it's something that I look to really, really microscopically.
Mm.
Let's do a primer. Like a tiny bit. What is the thyroid, and how do we measure it? So, the thyroid is basically your metabolism. It's what stops you and lets you go. Meaning, if we are under really heavy periods of stress, your body is going to slow down your thyroid to tell you, dude, chill, sleep more or whatever. And it's going to make you physically tired. It's going to give you mental fog. You're just going to feel like crap. And on the opposite side, when we're healthy and that thyroid and that HPA axis is well regulated, everything syncs and everything works, and you feel energetic. You wake up with good energy. You don't have to take naps, and it's what helps us get into that healthy lifestyle. The thyroid is a little hormone. The thyroid hormone goes inside your cell, and actually touches the nucleus of the cell. to tell the cell to make more amino acids or proteins or different things. And it's basically the biological clock that allows us to be energetic and be present. We measure it like a thermostat. You have your pituitary, and the pituitary sends a hormone, the thyroid stimulating hormone, from your brain to your thyroid to tell the thyroid to make more hormone. So the brain is basically saying, make more, make more. Or if you're taking too much thyroid, or if you have Graves' disease, it's very, very quiet and it's not making any thyroid stimulating hormone. On paper, the on paper reference ranges for thyroid, specifically for the thyroid stimulating hormone, vary widely. But, for the sake of argument, let's say that it's a 0.45 to a 4.5 on the scale. And anything in between, if you go to your conventional doctor, they're going to say, oh, you're fine. So you can be at a 3 or a 4.49 and you are fine. Let's keep looking at it. Maybe it'll go up. But if you go above 4.5, oh my goodness, you have thyroid disease. I would be like going to, trying to go get a car, and your neighbor said, oh, they gave me a 1% interest rate on this car. So then you go to the dealership and you say, hey, I want to apply for this. And they say, oh, yeah, your rate is going to be a 4%. And you're like, what? That's thousands of dollars more expensive. And they tell you, oh, it's within the range. Don't worry about it. You're doing good. So I monitored that range way more closely. And good thyroid numbers within the TSH is going to be somewhere between 0.5 and 1.0. And that's where your risks for osteoporosis are lower. Your metabolism works better. It is effortless to lose weight. Mental clarity is much better. It prevents things like thyroid cancer, thyroid nodules, thyroid cysts, things like that. So that's what we want to look at, a more tight, compressed TSH.
Let's spend just a couple of minutes chatting about some of the biggest changes that you think we need to make as a culture, as a world, to overcome these autoimmune disorders, because there are so many things that we can do that will help to prevent and also address.
Oh, yeah, let's just all move to Costa Rica and be independently wealthy. If you like your husband, take him. If you don't, divorce him.
Did you know that
Live
I
from
just
the.
wait, did you know I just bought a house in Costa Rica last week?
No! So basically, it's like we can't escape it. We can't escape it because we want to live and have fun and enjoy life. So the most important thing, the thing that we need to do is eat like a human. Let's eat the most anti-inflammatory diet for you. Okay, lift some weights. Get some muscle. That's going to be insurance for survival. Eliminate unnecessary stress and enjoy life. Now, how easy is that? That's I'm still trying to figure it out. So that's why if I have someone that does have autoimmune disease, I completely 100% encourage them to go on thyroid replacement therapy because it buffers and it allows you, not to have to be a slave to your own lifestyle. Like imagine, for anyone that has kids, if you want to be 100% sure you never get any sort of autoimmune disease, and your kid has a strep throat and goes and knocks at, hey, mommy, can I'm hurting, and you're like, you know what, go back to bed. I gotta go. I gotta go to bed. With complete quietness in a cold room. When the sun comes up and I spend 10 minutes, optimizing my cortisol levels, I'm gonna go and check on you. No, we don't want to live like that. You want to be able to be there for those that you love. So the most important thing that you gotta do is you do anything and everything that allows you to be there for your community, for your family, for others. And what that looks like for everyone is going to be different. What are the non negotiables? Eating a healthy diet that is appropriate for you, anti-inflammatory, whatever that looks like. Removing processed foods, easy things, trying, changing things in your like cleaning products that are less toxic. Can't avoid them, but we can be better. Exercise, good sleep, and maybe you'll be one of the lucky ones that can avoid it. you know but if we stack those cards in our favor, then it's going to be much easier, even if you are diagnosed with cancer, obesity, diabetes, anything. We're going to have those cards in our favor.
Yeah, absolutely. As we close, I'd just love to hear a little bit more about your personal lifestyle and routine. Share with us the supplements that you take.
Oh my goodness. One supplement. I take one supplement. Supplements supplement a healthy lifestyle. So they come in and out of my life
Hmm.
as I need them.
Hmm.
But the one supplement that I always, like I have to have is
Yeah.
magnesium citrate. I like the citrate is not the most absorbable, but and this is interesting. I always had a little bit of constipation all my life, and it turns out that my thyroid probably had something to do with that, and having a little bit of magnesium citrate, helps me with that. Outside of that, electrolytes, every day, but that's not a supplement. I think that's necessary,
Hmm.
just because when you eat very unprocessed food, you don't get the amount of salt, magnesium, potassium,
I got my
that
salt right here as we're speaking. I always have it with me in the office.
Yeah, and even if we eat organic, we've mistreated the land so bad that we're not getting as many nutrients as we want, yeah, as we
Mm,
need. But I think it would be easier for me to say what are the things that I don't want anyone taking long term.
mm.
Like, for example, if you have thyroid disease, iodine is the worst thing that you can do for your thyroid. And that's a 1 hour conversation because there's a lot of misinformation.
Wow.
Another thing is antimicrobials. I have multiple papers and that are peer reviewed. I have about how bad antimicrobials are for you, because no one would take amoxicillin for the rest of their life. Just take low dose amoxicillin. But how many people do you know that are taking berberine every day? And then the other one that is fish oil. I discourage my patients from taking fish oil, not because it's a bad supplement, but because it kind of discourages my patients from doing things like sardines or salmon or. So I use it as a tool, more like, okay, let's stop the fish oil, and I'm going to challenge you to try to get that gram of omega-3 fatty acids from food rather than from a supplement. And it's very interesting because canola oil, vegetable oils, things like that get a really bad rap in our circles. Well, omega-3 fatty acids are a purified polyunsaturated fatty acid. And when you strip flesh, fat, fiber, whatever from that acid, and you purify it and you put it in a capsule, the chances that when you eat it becomes radicalized and causes a little bit of inflammation are greater than if we started this with an evolutionary diet, than if we ate that nutrient as nature intended us to eat it, covered in different, amino acids and, structures that are going to stabilize it and actually allow it to go where it needs to be.
Wow.
I'm not saying, I'm not saying that people shouldn't eat, take fish oil. What I'm saying is that if you need to take fish oil, that's a glaring spot in your lifestyle that you could improve and stop, burping fish.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. Dr. Ruiz, where can we find you online if we want to follow and hear more?
Well, I have a website, 3030 strong, 3030 strong.com, and my practice is at go health, ATGO health.com. And that's where I'm practicing. It's so funny. I talked about not having stress during the pandemic, but when the pandemic happened, I saw an opportunity to open a 100% telemedicine practice because I'm very risk averse. So I had a lot of stress starting a brand new company solo practicing at that point. That's probably my baby. That's what broke my thyroid. But oh my goodness, it has been so amazing to eliminate the barriers of care and connecting people to the right protocols and to the right treatment while being able to do it at an affordable cost. Because one of the things that happens with functional medicine is that you go to a functional medicine doctor and they say we're going to test everything, and you end up spending thousands of dollars on labs, okay, and then thousands of dollars in supplements, and nothing is ever addressed. Your lifestyle is never addressed. Getting to the underlying cause of disease, getting to the bottom is not, oh, instead of taking metformin, you should take berberine, because no one has a berberine, or no one has a metformin deficiency. No one has a berberine deficiency. So I don't like that type of medicine. And in order for me to create something that I wanted, I had to build it from the from the ground up.
Yeah, no, I truly appreciate that, and I agree with you. I think that's one of the pain points of functional medicine or naturopathy is you go in and you're expected to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for testing, and then you're right, the supplements can be $3,000 a month alone. And so, yeah, that is difficult. It causes friction for a consumer that is hoping to get to the root cause. So I appreciate your mission and desire to be more affordable for the everyday man, which is a big passion of mine as well. So, thank you, Dr. Ruiz. This has been such a great conversation, and I'm confident that our listeners are better off for it.
Well, Amanda, I think that, we need to do another one with just Graves' disease,
Yes.
or, because it's such a huge topic.
Mm,
But yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
you're welcome. Bye, everyone.